in session.
Stand for prayer.
Come on in.
Okay, let's pray. Father, we thank you for the many blessings you provide and for the many ways you continue to show mercy on each and every one of us. And we praise you for everlasting life. Today we thank you for those great warriors among us who, with their fellows and families, sacrificed so much during the great conflict of World War II. We thank you for their service to our nation during the war and for their service to society in all the years since World War II concluded. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of our city. And as we work through our agenda this evening, we ask for your wisdom, your guidance, and your strength to make the best decisions to build a community worthy of all of us, and so that we may continue to live and work in harmony. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
approval of the minutes. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Public comment?
Hey, hello. My name is Greg Christopherson. I wanted to remind everyone that this weekend is the Camp Gordon Johnson Reunion Days here in Carrabelle. Friday, we're going to have boat excursions out to Dog Island. If anybody wants to get on that, $25 a person, minimum of 3. Friday evening, American Legion Post 82 in Lanark Village is going to have the annual Low Country Boil. So any veterans, World War II, active duty, or veterans with valid ID are invited, no charge, and 1 guest per veteran. So that's a pretty good turnout usually every year. And then on Saturday morning, there's going to be a breakfast at the Masonic Lodge that the Masons put on. That's $6 a plate, and active duty and World War troops eat free. And then the parade starts at 10:45. And this year, there are going to be a lot of military vehicles in there from the Military Vehicle Preservation Association. There are already some in town already. And after the parade, there's going to be a big swap meet in the GUSC grounds there. They're going to have all kinds of military memorabilia that you can buy, and they trade things. And so it's going to be a pretty big deal this year. And then anybody that wants to be in the parade, if you just contact the museum or Sid Winchester, he's at 524-3927. And then Saturday evening, again, we're going to have a dinner dance, but this year it's going to be at the Senior Center. And the tickets are $10 each, and chicken, pork, or a pork entree, and then live entertainment and DJ by yours truly. So anyway, hope you all can make it to some of those events this weekend. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Mathis.
I have none.
Commissioner Paz.
Yes, sir. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to request the clerk next month if she would provide us a report on the results of the city's total taxable property values for this year. Taxable value will give us a heads up on our important decisions that we need to make regarding the upcoming budget year. I've had a preliminary report that the city property values have declined once again, so we need to start planning ahead in the event we need to make budget cuts or change the millage rate and these decisions regarding essential and non-essential line items. Our millage rate right now is 10, and the highest allowable by the state is, our millage rate right now is 9 mills. The highest allowable by the state is 10 mills. So that leaves us very little room for increased spending or negotiating. Right now, the taxable property value, the value of all of our properties in the city, 1 mil earns us about $95,000 to $100,000. When you're looking at the budget line item for the utilities on this building total at $65,000, 1 mil, is not really a lot of money when you have, large bills like that. So if Keisha would just bring that to us next month, I'd appreciate it. And then right now, the Forgotten Coast Plein Air Paint-Out is underway, May 1st through the 11th, and the artists document landscapes and cultures of the authentic old Florida right here on our own Forgotten Coast. Several days this week, a painting station has been set up at the Pavilion on Marine Street, and on Tuesday, the artist created paintings for display and reception and discussion at the old Carrabelle, and this was, at Rio Carrabelle downtown, and this was sponsored by the Carrabelle Artists Association. And that particular event brought about 50 out-of-town visitors to Carrabelle. And I think we made an excellent impression. Downtown is all spiffed up due to the efforts of the CRA with the maintenance and cleanup that's in progress. And then on Saturday and Sunday, on May the 23rd and 24th, Sea Quarters is hosting the Red Snapper Fishing Tournament. That's the first 2 days of opening season for Red Snapper, and there's guaranteed payout. Winner is $2,000, second place is $1,500, third and fourth place is $500. The entry fee is $200 a boat, and of course that will be more out-of-town visitors to Carrabelle. So we look forward to seeing them, and I want to wish all the ladies a very happy Mother's Day. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Massey. Okay, I don't have anything. So, moving on to staff reports. No.
Prior to moving on to staff reports, there was, as far as the mayor's absence, there was at the last commission meeting, there was a motion to exclude it for medical purposes. If we can do that, we can now make time.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Just to report on the projects ongoing for the city. The US 98 landscape project, the portion that was in the DOT right away, that project has been completed and accepted by the department. There was a change order with that project to be funded by the CRA, and that's within the welcome part. That work is currently ongoing. At the Avenue B resurfacing project, a notice of award was issued to Peavy & Son. The construction contract has been delivered to Peavy, and as soon as that is signed by them, we'll bring it to the city for your signature. And that contract will be executed. The resurfacing project will not commence until the landscape project in the Welcome Park area is complete. And lastly, the 12th Street sidewalk connector. The low bidder for the boardwalk portion of that project was Kathy Construction. So we will be executing the contract for that as well. And the evaluation for the bids for the sidewalk portion of that project is currently ongoing. All right, thank you very much.
Waterfront Partnership.
Williams, this is the pastor for the New Hope, and he had wanted to come speak under public comment. We didn't put him on the agenda, and so if it could please the board.
I would motion that the pastor for the New Hope Church be allowed to speak now for public comment.
I have a motion.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I want to say thank you for the opportunity to come and to introduce myself. My name is Terry Price.
Oh, I'm sorry, can you grab the microphone
Okay.
so everyone
There
can
you
hear you?
go.
It's probably not on.
Testing. Okay. My name is Terry Price. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, and we have a church that was here, a sister church, New Hope, right on 9th Street and 98, right next to the nice car lot. And the church was closing down. The pastor that was there for the last 17 years had passed away. And so to keep it from closing, our church in Tallahassee has launched out to have that as a second location that we would do ministry work on this side of Florida as well as in the Tallahassee area. And so we'll be starting services there on the first Sunday in June at 8:30 a.m. And so I had the opportunity to meet with the sheriff as well as the chief of police on this past week and listen to some of the concerns or some of the things that they were given as far as concerns that they have. And so we're going to do our best to be a part of the community and to offer some things that we have been successful with in the past in the Tallahassee area that we believe that we're able to bring some of that to Carrabelle as well. And so my wife is with me today. I just introduced her as well, Madria Price. And so we've been married now for 17 years. And so we're excited and we're here to serve the community. Thank you.
And Pastor Jerry Price, you said?
Terry
Jerry
Price.
Price.
Yes, ma'am.
Very nice to meet you.
Okay, the Waterfront Partnership.
Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to report on all the activities in the month of April, and I can just sum it up very quickly in saying the 25th anniversary Carrabelle Riverfront Festival, because basically all we did for the month of April was to organize and help the city staff conduct the festival. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see the paper today, but the actual coordinator, Steve Allen, wrote a nice thank you letter that was in today's paper thanking all of the sponsors and individual organizations that helped out. And it truly was a tribute that despite the horrible weather all around us, we had fine weather here, and it was all very successful. If all those people in those other places would have just come, it was a little sad that we didn't have as many attendants.
I think there was like 4 festivals that weekend.
Well, there probably were, and we've been thinking of trying to move it to the early part of the month where people have more money. Just a thought. But that's for another time. But we really appreciate particularly the efforts of Courtney and William and Jared and the work crews in helping us put together all the infrastructure that nobody even realizes that gets done, but it's such an important part of the festival for us. And we appreciate that very much. If all goes right and the stars align properly, we're starting on the renovations for City Hall on Monday. So far, the stars have not aligned perfectly, but we're hopeful that tomorrow it will kind of click into place. Courtney got off our 3rd version of a new and improved amendment to our contract with the state today, and hopefully we'll get the go-ahead tomorrow. And we're ready to go. The contractor, Oliver Sperry, they're ready to go. They got the pressure washers, they're all set, and we are anxious for them to get started in the renovations to Old City Hall. And we're already starting on the application for the next go-round with that. And otherwise, I think I will wait until next month and brief you on some other things that we're doing. And we appreciate everything you're doing to help us help the city along. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
EDC,
We don't have a report.
no report. All right, the attorney's report.
Your attorney report, I just have one procedural matter. that was brought to my attention. This would apply both at the commission level as well as the CRA board, because the mayor has been out for a little while here, and Commissioner Williams has been acting as the chair of both boards. That just to understand the procedures that we follow, and I think Commissioner Williams, as the mayor pro tem, has been following this, just so what everybody knows, so we run the meeting smooth, is that the mayor in Carrabelle, per the charter, has, the acting mayor has, as well as the mayor, has a voice and a vote. So Commissioner Williams is required to vote on motions that come before the board. He would vote at the end, after all the other commissioners have voted, so as not to influence any of the other commissioners on their voting. If Commissioner Williams were to want to make a motion, he has to find a willing candidate amongst the commissioners to take the gavel in order to do that. But just so, but that is, and I explained this, I talked to Commissioner Williams about this, is that he is required to vote on motions, not just break ties. And if anybody has any questions procedurally, just go ahead and ask me. I've been doing some research on it.
Any questions? Is that it?
That's it.
All right. We have a public hearing, the new business, a public hearing. What do we have on a public hearing?
I just leave it there. It's normally where we read our ordinances or resolutions.
Oh, okay.
It's a placeholder.
Okay, new business. Item 1. Discussion and possible action regarding revisions made to the ordinance 282. That ordinance is the addressing the camping situation.
Just by way of background, I know we have one of the members of the P&Z board here today. P&Z has had this matter under, been working on it for about 60 days. The commission has sent it down to them to formulate a recommendation. The draft ordinance that you have in front of you is the form of the recommendation. Previously, they had set up some recommendations where we just reused bullet points, and they had wanted to put this in a more formal form, but it is only, the P&Z is just, they make recommendations, they're advisory only. And to put this ordinance in a nutshell, what P&Z, basically the last recommendation, and they want to present it to the commission, is simply that to provide a mechanism by which the existing the folks that have been coming here to meetings and speaking, that have received paperwork from the city, that there be a mechanism allowing them to stay, continue the use that they historically have had on the property, and to allow them to sell their property, as long as that use is continuing, to sell it to a third party, children, anything like that, so it would pass on. We also have just some text changes to the ordinance to tighten up really the definition of premises and make sure that there are not, the pieces of property in the city are not put to this use moving forward. And then some enforcement language relative to non-conforming uses that obviously they'd be subject to code enforcement. And that is in essence the recommendation of the P&Z board to the commission. And the commission obviously can take the recommendation as it's been made, they can reject it, and with your own direction to me to draft an ordinance to whichever direction the board wants to go on this issue.
Okay. Do we have anybody who wants to speak on the issue?
May I make a motion at this point?
You can.
Okay, I would like to motion that we set a time limit on the public comment so that we can move forward. Then we heard a good bit of public comment.
Yeah.
To set a time limit so that we can move forward and then deal with the business at hand that we need to deal with if we have time.
This doesn't look like it's gonna be that controversy, but, I would say about 3 minutes per speaker. Nobody repeat what one person has said. But anybody who wants to get up and speak to the issue, please do so. Raise your hand. Step forward, please.
Give a second on that motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you're suggesting in 3 minutes, Chair?
Yeah.
Okay, then I would make a motion for the speakers to speak about 3 minutes and not to repeat. Is that what you said?
Yeah. We're trying to get everything straight to the point.
Okay.
All these people repeated a lot of
Okay.
times.
All right, that's my motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
My name's William Yeomans. I read over, we've been working real hard, Wednesday meetings, trying to get this settled. I think we're getting what we were told that, from the city to start with, and that's all we had asked. And I'm asking, if y'all would really consider this, because, I think this is the best way. And I appreciate everything everybody's done here, trying to get to this point. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
So, now, anybody else that comes in and buys land, they're not gonna,
The P&Z
that's the
board
way,
initially had talked about a special exception procedure to allow for that, but that was at the first P&Z meeting. The second P&Z meeting, they asked that I remove all that. So that was what was talked about, you may have heard someone talk
right,
about it.
yeah.
And then after that process was removed. So moving forward, the people that are currently engaged in this use would be the only ones. So it would be putting an end to it from expanding.
Or we can do away with the ordinance altogether, right?
Yes.
If the board votes on it.
Yep. I mean, it's just a recommendation. And I know, I've had a couple folks ask me that it's an ordinance. I've drafted it as an ordinance, but don't look at it that way. This is a recommendation of P&Z.
Right.
You can choose to do anything with this, move all the pieces around, any direction.
Okay. Beth?
The only thing I have in question on here is all during P&Z, we talked about a special exception, but this applies to an exemption. And
Were you at the, and I'm sorry.
I was, and
okay.
that kept coming up.
Yeah, the special
Chester
exception.
kept saying exemption, and we were actually talking about an exception.
Right, and that was just Chester talking about a special exemption, and there is a difference between an exception and exemption. And I don't want to confuse everybody, but on this one, my understanding of P&Z, and definitely anybody who's there also correct me, but we got rid of the special exception process. So special exception is not part of this anymore, period. What they did ask for was to carve out basically an exemption for the people that are existing uses, that have their paperwork, that have a water and sewer tap, and that
So
sort
you're
of thing.
saying they no longer have to apply to the city? That's what we talked about in the P&Z.
The
They
process.
would apply to the city for a special exception.
Right, that special exception process is deleted out. Under the exemption, the only requirement is that they come in and just tell really Keisha, the city clerk, that hey, this is our address, this is our location, so she can track them forward. So when they sell the property and someone comes in, so we know where everybody, the existing ones that are receiving the exemption are located.
So there's nothing formal to tie them into that property except for Keisha and her PIN?
I'm not sure I understand.
My question is, what if they do it, but Keisha doesn't get it written in, without a piece of paper saying that you have been exempted? What guarantees them that that happens, number one, and what guarantees the city that she says, I wrote it down, but we've got extra?
The ordinance does. The ordinance does. The ordinance has a date in it. It has criteria in it. For instance, if Keisha had made a list and lost it or burned up in a fire or something happened to it, it wouldn't change anything, meaning that they would still either qualify or not under this ordinance. They would have utility bills, they would have things to go back on to say, hey, we were here as of this date and we qualify for the exemption. So everybody would need to hang on to their paperwork, but the ordinance itself is what establishes the exemption.
Dan, why couldn't the city give them some kind of letter saying that they had qualified for
Gene?
exemption?
Up here, please.
No, I ain't coming up
You're not okay with it. I can't recognize you from where you are.
there. I am. Don't get ugly with me.
I will.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the starting point, and again, you can go in any direction, but that's not a bad idea that we have, they may want something in return from the clerk, saying, yes, we recognize you qualify for this exemption, you keep that in your file, the clerk will keep something in her file, and if ever there's confusion, we can we'll have it straight. So that's a good idea. It could be an addition. I can draft some language to that effect.
But nobody else can sell any property and there be an RV put on it, right?
I need to make one correction on a statement that I made before we get too much further into this, if you don't mind. I made a statement in our February 27th joint workshop that was incorrect about property appraisal procedures, and I just need to correct that. I told the property appraiser I would correct that here at this meeting. I stated that the standalone campsites were not being taxed, and because there were no buildings associated with it, and they are being taxed. The extra features like fences and sheds and porches are being taxed and assessed, and the taxes are being collected as well.
Oh, okay.
So please let me stand corrected on that statement.
Did I understand you right to say that,
Sean, give your name, please.
my name's Sean Hobson, did I understand you when you were reading that to say that once these are exempt, if you exempt these people or whatever y'all are calling this, that goes on forever, that piece of property, whoever they sell it to can keep it exempt forever? Did I understand that right?
Yes.
So that's going to be the most valuable piece of property in Carrabelle, because people are going to want that piece of property because they can put a camper there and not pay taxes on it. Is that correct?
Well, because it's taxed.
It's not taxed for a house, though.
Right, just the fences, sheds,
But-
and porches.
I could see it if you were selling it to your family member or something, but if you're ultimately trying to phase that out at some point, how does that, I just don't
And
understand.
Sean, I mean, again, I don't want to speak for, we went around
Right.
multiple times with
Right.
P&Z as well as the commission, but
But
there's
it's just-
two schools of thought on it. We're trying to meet in the middle
I think
somewhere.
we'll be discussing it here shortly.
It's almost like tying a houseboat up to the dock. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd have.
Okay, Jim. Your name, please. Okay.
I forgot what I wanted to say.
Use the mic,
You can't hear me?
No.
I can almost assure you.
Turn it on. Is it on?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I can almost assure everybody that once you sell that piece of land, if it has gone up in value, that Miss Rhonda will pick it up. I know every time I sell something close to something else I got, she picks all of it up. So I wouldn't worry about that part of it. The other question I have is from here on out, when people come down to Carrabelle, they like it here. They're really just looking for a place to camp and hunt and fish and not trying to change the city. From here on out, is somebody going to have to develop an RV park to give these people somewhere to go?
Either that, or we'll have to set aside certain areas where it'll be allowed.
But y'all haven't got that far along.
We have not got that far.
I would like then, on that note, to ask about Avondale Estates. That was changed out to an RV park. Is that still in effect, or?
Yeah, Avondale Timber Island, yeah. What was going on there was,
It's out by the airport.
oh, sorry,
He got his permit and
was that a PUD?
We
Yeah,
did-
the
we did
PUDs
approve
are,
that.
the PUDs are a different animal. I know we've had a couple in town where we have amended the PUD ordinance and then allowed certain uses, because a PUD is just basically a designer zoning ordinance, basically. So you can provide for, as long as the land use, the comp plan land use allows for it, you can write in basically all the different uses, recreational, RV, that sort of thing. So a PUD ordinance would be kind of what Mr. Williams was just talking about. If in the future, someone wants to do this in a certain area of the city, that would be probably the best way to do it.
So is that area of the city at this point in time, can that be used as an RV?
It's privately owned.
Yeah, the owner would have to establish it, but yes, it did get approved.
So we have an area that's approved now for RVs.
But we don't
Like a
control.
And
subdivision.
it's for sale.
It would be a subdivision.
Del Snyder's property
You
over
could be
there.
Del
established in
Snyder
Avondale
at the
subdivision.
airport, behind the airport.
So it's zoned right. It's zoned right for that use. But it is, you know, it's a private piece of property that doesn't have lots or anything. It doesn't have lots on it or anything. It's just a big acreage piece. Yeah.
All right, any more questions?
Against my family's wishes. Hi, I'm Susan Fuel, and I have been listening to this for some time now, and I agree with both sides. The only thing I'm asking the City Commission when you're working on this is to realize how little affordable housing there is in Carrabelle. I'm in a position where I get phone calls from people out of town saying, do you know where I can rent a safe, clean apartment in Carrabelle? So that is why a lot of these camps have sprung up. You don't have affordable housing here. So I think this is a win-win situation for everyone if you take into consideration some of the problems that you have. That's what caused it. It's not just someone coming in and saying, oh, I want a cheap place to live on the water. They can't get anywhere else unless they're going to spend $90 a night at the moorings or the Carrabelle Inn. So I'm just asking you guys to take this into consideration because I think it can be a win-win for everyone concerned and everyone has valid points here. Thank you.
First of all, as far as the renting situation, you're not supposed to rent those.
No, they end up buying cheaper.
Yeah.
Some of them ain't that cheap.
Okay. We'll,
But,
any more
yeah,
comments?
you're right.
Okay, any comments from the commissioners?
Yes, sir, I have a few. I spoke with the attorney yesterday. You know, I had quite a few questions. First of all, I do want to point out that the ordinance that's in effect right now, Ordinance 282, that we have in effect right now, was originally written in 1982. It was a county ordinance, and it was enacted on December 7th, the same day this was, December 7th in 1982. And this ordinance has been in use in the county, the same word-for-word ordinance that we have, except it says, this one says Franklin County, and this says Carrabelle, Florida, since 1982, and there's really been no problems with this ordinance until very recent years in the county, and then this same word-for-word ordinance here in the city limits. So, you know, I just wanted to point that out. That this is a long time enacted and acted upon ordinance. I requested at the workshop some definitions, and do I have to request that again, or do I have to ask the board if we could have definitions to help clarify this ordinance? That's what we were trying to do, is to help clarify and not have misinterpretations again.
Yep. I mean, what I would appreciate, and you can give me whatever you want to give me, but as far as I would appreciate direction. Basically, obviously, you all need to talk through this. I know it's a divisive issue, and then you all give me direction, and if you say, Dan, I want definitions, I want to go in this direction or that direction, I'll take it, I'll write it, that's what I'll do. But I'm hesitant to, just because I don't want to do, I don't want to say needless work, but it's all good work, but I need direction from the commission to tell me, Dan, write it this way, or if there's things in this recommendation, if this is a starting point, cross things out, add things, you tell me and I'll write it up. But again, I haven't gotten clear direction from the commission because we've been divided on it.
Well, as I told you yesterday, the ordinance, proposed ordinance, is a little bit difficult to interpret. For me, it was, and I fear that we may have that same problem that we've had in recent years with interpretation. And if we want to keep the same wording, we may need to tone it down. If we want to go with these same procedures that you have here, maybe make the wording a little more in layman's so that we don't have a problem with the public or staff or commissions, future commissioners trying to interpret it. I don't have a problem with letting these parcel owners continue with their use as they have now, as they thought, that they were told they could use. But as far as in perpetuity, assessors and assigns, I'm not in agreement with that. Once that property changes hands, it changes property owner, then I feel like it needs to go back to conforming use. We have zoning codes and land development regulations that were established, and it's basically a zoning issue. We've had zoning in the United States for 100 years or more, and it helps to guide the way communities are developed and the way communities grow. And we need to try to stick to our zoning codes.
So now you don't want to take the planning and zoning's recommendations?
I want to take some of their recommendations, but not everything. I think that we need to come to a compromise here.
Well, I make a motion to take the planning and zoning's recommendation for the new ordinance 282.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. I'm a little mixed on it. Let me just say, I can agree with Commissioner Paz about in the future. I don't have a problem with what's there, with the exception where you have two campers on one lot. That's an exception that I don't think should be there. I think you should only be allowed the one.
I got 2 lots. I got a camp on each one. I know you're talking about me because we go right
But
behind.
you're all right, okay?
You got to go up there. No, he's messing with me. I ain't going up there.
But anyway, what I'm saying is there's a few things like that I don't think should be grandfathered in. Now, a question of how long are we grandfathered? I have some reservations about that, but I can live with any of those.
Let me throw a suggestion out there, and Patty Lee may, or Courtney, thought it was bounced around, but I don't know that it made it in the recommendation, was that if there is a period of non-use, basically that someone removes their trailer for 6 months, a year, whatever you all think would be appropriate, that they stop the use, that then they couldn't come back to it. Meaning, but a long period. I mean, something where they've abandoned the use of the property for that purpose. I mean, that was talked about. It did not make it in the recommendation. But as far as the concerns that you have, it was definitely the recommendation that it go on in perpetuity, that these people bought the property and they had this expectation. I know that was a big sticking point all along. They'd be able to give it to their family, sell it, that sort of thing. But the concept would be this, that if someone, an example, someone removes their travel trailer, RV, they put a mobile home on the property. And then that mobile home 10 years from now gets pulled off. Someone can't come back in with a travel trailer at that point, even though that lot's on the list, qualifies for the exemption, that sort of thing. But that's just an, that's just something that might address some of the concerns that you have. But it would be, that would be.
Well, that brings up the question, if a unit gets to a point of deterioration and they remove it totally, are you going to be allowed in perpetuity to put anything else back?
Yeah, that was something that Commissioner Paz and I talked about. This is an exemption. This is not there's a section in the LDR that deals with existing non-conforming uses that talks about that one concept of if the use is abandoned or if a portion of it's destroyed, you can only put back 50%. If over 50% is destroyed, they can no longer do it. That is not what we're suggesting here. We are giving them an exemption. So I mean, if they need to pull their RV off the lot to get some work done on it, they can pull it off and bring it back.
Well, I'm not talking about just work. I'm just talking about usually when you have a piece of property in decline, it gets to a point where it's non-usable anyway.
Yep.
And that's when you step in and say they can't put another one in its place.
And that is kind of the non-conforming, like you're recognizing that it's a non-conforming use, an existing non-conforming use, and there's a whole section in the current LDR that was recently adopted that talks exactly about that what you're talking about exactly. This exemption that we're talking about is, my understanding again from the recommendation of P&Z, is that if that, say for instance, a travel trailer reached a certain level of deterioration, they can pull that one off and replace it with a new one and keep on using it as for this purpose. But again, that's up to you all to decide. But that was, and again, I'm looking over at Patty. If that was my understanding of the P&Z recommendation.
Let me, do I have anything of the commissioners that need to amend? Well, first of all, I guess we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey and a second. I'm going to call for a vote on it, I guess, and then we'll go from there. And we can amend the motion if we have to. Now, unless we want to amend the motion now.
No.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to follow this, I guess, P&Z ordinance, I guess it is.
Recommendation of P&Z.
Yeah, recommendation of P&Z. And we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. No. I'm opposed.
I'm opposed the way this is written. I would like to see some amendments added to it. So I'm opposed to it at this particular time.
All right, you would hit me with some amendments. I'll write it down.
I would like to consider something like I said. Now, let me ask you a question before. I should have done that earlier. But anyway, these rules that we have about all of this that is not addressed in here that you were talking about. How do they apply to this?
The way we would need to, the way we're addressing this, or I'm trying to address it, as far as what the will of the P&Z board was, or to embody their recommendation, is that if we call them an existing non-conforming use, there's procedures in the LDR that follow exactly what you were thinking about or discussing.
Okay.
Is if things deteriorate or people abandon the use, they can't come back to it. It's seen as non-conforming. If there's an exemption, they are not non-conforming. There's actually an exemption carved out for them and recognized, and the use to which they're putting it is basically conforming. So they can continue that use in perpetuity, because that is what the P&Z recommendation was, is that they be able to continue this in perpetuity. What I'm kind of pulling from, based on your thoughts, was the idea that, you know, obviously you're thinking about an amendment that alters that to some extent.
Well, if you're covered in our other land regulations.
It is not. I mean, from a legal standpoint, it is not, because they would not be considered a non-conforming use. This is, I'm trying to think of an analogy, but they're exempt, so that they're not covered. They're not considered a non-conforming use. They're not considered in violation of an ordinance.
Well, didn't necessarily mean I wanted a violation, but I think I need to study this for a while.
I believe that this ordinance needs to be written a little, like I said, more clearly, so that it's easily interpreted. You mentioned that the cutoff date does not have to be March 1st. I would suggest that the cutoff date be December 4th, 2014, when the issue was originally presented to this board. I don't know if this would be a policy issue or an ordinance issue, but I, as Water and Sewer Commissioner, am obligated to have someone make sure that all of the connections on each of these temporary housing units, that the sewer connection is correct, just as these connections would be inspected on a regular building in construction. And I don't know what we intend to do about the ones that don't have sewer connection. Is there, we have one unit like that?
I think there's a couple that's on septic tanks. We don't offer sewer in that area. They're on water.
Hopefully one of these days we will. And in the future, now this may not be in the ordinance, but this particular ordinance, I would like to see folks that come in with their building permit. That building permit needs to be accompanied by design plans for a home or mobile home or commercial building, and not just a building permit for a power pole. And that's, you know, what is having a permit for a power pole, then it just opens up for anyone to put whatever they want to on the property.
Well, according to this ordinance, we're not going to allow any new ones coming in anyway.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that would cover the power pole.
I hope so.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I reckon I need to come up better this time. You better.
Yeah, come on.
Figure it out. There you go. Hey, I'm Arthur Hanley. To answer or to comment to your thing about plans and all that, I did that. I issued plans, they looked at them, they inspected the pole barn as well as the pole, the electrical pole. It wasn't just the electrical pole. And I had plans designed and sent to them. So the rest of them did or had to or what, but I know I had to.
So you have home, plans for a home?
No, I had planned to put a pole barn up and put a motor home under it. That's what I had planned to do, and that's what they approved. That's what I paid for, and that's what I did. And to go back to change, you know, some people don't know when they bought them, say, I bought mine the last part of 2014. You want to change it to December the 4th, that would cause me a lot of problems. And then I would have to get an attorney involved. I bought mine the end of December. So I think everybody needs to look at it. If you ain't gonna please everybody, I understand that. But I can promise you, I'm not gonna be pushed out.
Well, I don't think we're here trying to push you out.
Well, if they changed the date like she's talking about, I would be, because I wouldn't fall under none of this.
When did you call a moratorium on this? Was it January or December?
We have not, we've
know
not enacted a formal moratorium.
I called out for it.
But we have not issued, yeah, we haven't issued any since the commission basically, I would say, directed staff not to. I mean, we have.
When I came in, they did not have it. It was not available. I talked to Courtney and Keisha. They did not have sewer or whatever. I had a well on my property there, but no sewer was available at that time. I don't know if there is now or not, but I know the guy across the street from me came in after I did, and he's got sewer and water. Now, how that happened, I don't know, but
Where are you at, Mr. Henry?
at 1003 Northeast First Street.
He said this had Raymond.
Right behind me.
Right.
Yeah, I live, well, I can pull a rock here just like now. But, yeah, I live right there.
Are you on the front lots or the back lots?
I'm on the front, I'm on the corner.
Yeah, right behind me. He's on, you know, Avenue I,
Uh-huh.
you know, where my yellow trailer, jump thing is.
I'm right there, I take that
Right
corner
behind
up.
you.
That is because he is on airback. So that's why he was not issued a sewer permit, because our airback was tied up, and it still is. So that is why.
Okay.
he could not
Capacity
do
is
sewer.
tied up.
Correct.
I mean, I didn't know, but I mean, I knew
That's why I was trying to picture where you were, but yes, that is why he's not on sewer.
All right, let me,
Are you using, how are you disposing of your wastewater?
I drive it to the RV place and dump it.
let me ask a
Both of
question.
mine are private.
I've got it, right there, behind that trailer, there is an airback,
It's there, the sewer's there, but we're maxed out on that, on those lines.
on the
If
lines
somebody wanted
coming.
to build a new home, we wouldn't be able to issue them a sewer tap right there.
Yeah. So they had told me that. It didn't matter what was there, they just ain't got availability.
Last time I checked, there was only 4 units.
Mr. Large, we've been to the Water Management District for years and we keep trying to get grants to.
And actually, theirs was
Expand our
some of the
capacity.
last ones that was approved in that area. We put in the pit and went ahead and run it down for all those lots down there, but then when he came, there was none.
Well, because when I bought that property, that yellow trailer was hooked up to the system. I tore all that out because I'm not using any of that. So that should have opened 1 unit.
It's open,
I don't use that, it's a shop, I don't use that trailer, because my house is right beside it. And it's hooked to the sewer.
He got a 55-gallon drum.
But I'm hooked to the airback system. And I was just wondering,
it doesn't work that way though. We can't shut one down and open one because somebody could move in there. Yours has already got an established connection. So that's safe for that lot.
okay. Well, we need to move on.
What I'd ask for is if folks have, different commissioners have amendments that relate to what they have as far as recommendation. Let me write them all down. I'll read them all back to you. You tell me which ones you're kind of a consensus on, and I'll rework this and get it back to you at the next meeting.
Well, the only thing that I think is in perpetuity, I mean, from now on, I can't quite agree with that.
And I agree with that also.
And make sure that there's not but one unit.
Okay, do you want, as far as, again, not being in perpetuity, do you want it tied to a period of time, or do you want it tied to the use? When I say tied to the use, I mean, if they abandon the use for a period of time, then they can't come back.
I'll go with the use.
What do you mean by that with the use?
I mean that for, and again, I'm using examples that I'm sure we'll have, God only knows what examples we'll run into in real life. But the example of someone pulls their travel trailer off, they put a mobile home on it, then 5 years later, the mobile home reaches a condition, they haul that off, and want to put a travel trailer back on it. We say, no, you abandon the travel trailer use for that lot at that point. If you want to use it as a travel trailer, sell it as a travel trailer lot, and it has to be used that way continuously, and I'll write something up and you all can adjust those things, but it has to be used that way moving forward.
Then I had if the property owner changes hands, if the property title changes, that's what I was thinking.
Well, you get into family matters with that. I mean, if they have children, they want to let their children come or give it to their children and all that. In one sense, if they go change the property, it changes hands on the title. I don't like that part of it. I'd rather they pass it on to their children, or if they want to do that. Now, I think that's what I think. Anyway.
What about
Mr. Williams, you said, when you say in one unit per lot, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And I agree with that as well.
what about a limit on how many times it was sold? I mean, because you could talk about 100 years. and-
Yeah, well, the problem you get in with time, the problem you get in with time limits, like you said, you know, it gets confusing, gets lost, all these regulations, all sort of stuff. Those kind of limits really don't work that well.
I'm talking all these years, I ain't gonna be around, I'll let somebody else worry about it.
So anyway, that was my thoughts. I don't have, you know, other than that, I think. Do you have anything else?
Well, I'm concerned about the date, the cutoff date. We do need to establish that, the cutoff date. When will,
When was the last time you issued? When was the last time one was issued?
Give me 2 minutes, y'all keep talking.
So, yes, that needs to be definitely established.
Okay, we have a cutoff date, inspection of water and sewer connections, remove some of the lawyer talk in it, make it a little plainer, simpler to understand.
I think we got somebody that wants to talk.
And abandonment of use would be the items so far.
With the inspection of the sewer connections, is that an ordinance issue, or would that be a policy administrative style issue that we might vote on?
I think I can cover it where we just talk about, call it adequate water and sewer facilities. It's a Department of Health issue, really. So when our water and sewer folks, if they have a water account or sewer account with the city, our field people, I'm not speaking for now, but they can go by and check. When they do it anyway. I mean, if they see someone, that's part of their job. When they're checking meters or whatever else, they'll look for anything out of the ordinary. But they can just check on these, just saying, hey, make sure the hookups are correct. But they probably would have done that when they said
Mr. Henley,
Ma'am.
yours was 3/3 of 2014, so December 4th of 2014 would not cut you off.
Okay.
The last one I had was December 22nd, 2014.
And that's the last approval?
That's the last pole barn or power pole that I issued.
Okay.
Am I looking
Now, this isn't all theirs, this is any pole barn or power pole that I've issued. I just went ahead and pulled them all.
Okay.
But I can pretty much keep up with, I know hers is a resident.
Okay, that's copy
But
off
they're in
Robert
order.
right there.
This is the first one,
Okay.
and that would be the first one, and then the last one.
Just trying to, I just want to see where it says that they, they're putting a power pole, but I just don't understand where they got the idea that they could set up a campsite. I just still can't understand it.
It's not a campsite.
It ain't a campsite.
Well,
We
I
don't
mean,
get in the yard, build
it's
fires,
almost as
and run
if
naked and all that
It's
stuff.
almost as if it's been turned into a single-family dwelling. Because they,
Oh, sorry, Rick. Got you, Rick.
they use it now as
Why don't we just go with the date?
so say January 1st.
January 1st.
That would be the
I don't know any campsites that pay $7,000
Man.
for that fee.
You got a thing.
Yeah, just a minute. We were discussing that. Okay. Wait a minute, I had one before you. This gentleman right here.
Well, I was just talking about the cutoff date. When we first started having these meetings, I went to get a copy of all my paperwork from the county. And Ms. Roxley made a comment. She says, well, I can't believe they're trying to stop y'all from coming down here, and they're still issuing permits. It says for travel pass.
Okay.
So they need to make it after everybody's gotten into that point.
Mr. McPherson, he's not here, it's the
Name's
last
Randy
one,
Usher.
December 27th.
Just curious, if you have a power pole on your lot, then are you required to have water?
No.
You're not required to have water, and you're not required to have sewer.
No.
So all you have to do
because
is,
you got a septic
all I
tank.
have to do is buy me a lot, put me a camper on there, and I don't have to pay any taxes, just on the land.
Sir, I'm sorry, what's your
That's
name?
not Randy.
Randy Usher.
You can put a power pole up. Now, to put because you got septic tanks, they can put in a septic tank. You say.
Now,
And
the few that have septic tanks, we did not issue water taps until we got approval from the state health department where they verified their septic tanks.
as of now, as far as storage of a camper, you can put it on any city lot and store it. That's allowed.
Okay, so you
Now,
guys are gonna keep up
that doesn't include living in it, but it's allowed there for storage. And you can
Well, we know that, we all know that's not being abided by, so.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay, I appreciate that, but I pay a lot of taxes. I know a lot of people in here that don't pay any taxes at all, and you're putting all the burden on the people that are paying all the taxes, and some people are making decisions that don't even pay the taxes. That burns me up quite a bit, and then you're making decisions on putting a power pole up and moving something in there, and not have to pay taxes. You're not looking after the people paying taxes, because I have to have water in my house. I have to have a sewer in my house. I don't have the option.
Right.
So you're not looking after the people out here that's paying all the taxes that has a house on their property. I can tell you that.
Well, it's gotten completely out of hand when we first started this stuff. It got somehow twisted around, and they started issuing permits, whereas prior to that, we didn't do any of that. So when it was brought to the attention of the city that these certain things were going on, that's when we started investigating what we needed to do and try to think about the future.
I think you need to investigate who's paying taxes and who's not also.
Well, who in here ain't paying taxes?
I think everybody pays taxes.
Everybody in here pays taxes.
I guarantee you that everybody in here don't pay taxes. I looked at it, I know.
It is just local, it ain't us.
It's got to be, but I sure pay them.
I don't pay none. Don't make enough to pay.
Mine's going up every year.
Yeah, mine went up
Oh,
last.
off the subject here. All right, have you got some idea where we're going?
I do.
January 1st?
I've got a January
January
1st cutoff date. I can put something in there to generally cover that obviously that they have to have compliant water and sewer connections. I'll get the language straightened out a little bit. And I'm going to try and put in there this abandonment of use concept, and I'll put some, times in there, but you all can check them and change it wherever you need it.
All right, just let me look at my notes. And what about some definitions? You have a few definitions in the original ordinance. Definition of premises should be added.
All right. Is that in any of the other regulations?
Now, if it's in the other one, it'll still be in this one too.
Correct.
It's not in the original.
Oh, it's not in the
No, it's not in the
okay.
original.
Yeah, premises, yeah, on the, right there it says,
I mean, we
it
have
says, resident in a premises defined as an existing on-site well.
Okay. So is that a definition then? Did you call that?
It is a definition, but if you have, you did send me that email, I can certainly, I'll bounce some of those off you if you want to get more elaborate in the definition of premises.
They ain't no lot neighbor to me, so I ain't worried about it.
Yes, sir.
My name's Curtis Bell. I know that we've been tagged or accused of running illegal fish camp. I don't fully understand that. I mean, do you honestly know of illegal fish camps?
I didn't say illegal.
Well, we were tagged earlier in meetings as illegal
I
fish
don't know
camps.
if I've ever said illegal.
I don't know if the fish camp ever came up, did it?
It did in the paper.
It did in the paper when it's
Oh,
originally
well,
started.
You can't tell anything.
That can't hold us responsible
Well,
for
I'm
that.
sorry. I don't know, even fish camps, I mean.
I don't
we
say
have-
fish camp.
Okay, well, I'm saying fish camps.
Okay.
We've been tagged that way, but, I mean, we have campers and we have boats. I don't leave mine down here because a local broke into it and destroyed it. But,
Your boat or your camper?
my boat. But, I plan on leaving it down here, but I don't want to be tagged as a fish camp. This is just a second place to come that we enjoy.
Well, we have not, no one on this board has tagged you as a fish camp. We were called, I called.
We won't stop
Okay,
them
well,
down.
The
I
time
retract
did come up
that
in the
statement.
paper and they were referring to the county's meeting that they had. So that's where the term initially came up. But it
Don't
was
look at
brought
me,
up.
I don't say that. I mean,
Okay,
they don't even
I'll
look like a
retract
fish
that
camp to me.
statement.
Well, the county's going through the same thing outside the city limits.
The places that I'm aware of in our area are neat and clean.
They are.
We don't just come and do whatever, have parties and fish camps, but the point I'm trying to make is, if we are not allowed to eventually pull a camper off and bring one back on, like my lot is 50 by 100, it's not very big. So if I,
That, when you say pull it off, that has to be for an extended period of time.
yes, sir.
It's not just a short period of time, like whatever, 6 months or what we come up with. That doesn't, because you might need some work done on it. You need to pull it off or whatever you got to do.
Or if I choose to upgrade and get a different one.
Exactly.
Right.
Then if I can't pull something smaller back on, then what I'm afraid of is eventually if we're forced to not have a smaller unit there, then we're left with an abandoned lot.
What do you mean smaller unit?
Either a small mobile home, which I would prefer not to have, but a camper, or if we can't leave it to a child or family member.
I think we just talked about that.
Yeah, once it changes hands that way, if that camper has to be pulled off, then we're left with an abandoned lot.
Well, I was trying to address the family situation.
Yes, I know, I appreciate that. But that's where I'm at. I have a small lot, so I can't do a whole lot with it.
All of the lots are like that, just about.
So, I mean, we're in that position too, that we can't do a great deal with it. And we don't want to leave a mess either. We don't want to leave an abandoned mess, and that's not the purpose. We come to enjoy it.
Commissioner Williams said all of the lots are small in the city. Sometimes people have to buy two.
But once you get grandfathered in, I guess you use the term grandfather, it's going to solve those problems. I mean, you should be able to leave it to your children. That's what we're discussing. And that shouldn't be a problem.
Well, if I choose to sell, it's set up for a camper. If someone else could pull one back in.
Well, we haven't, I don't know about that.
I just don't,
I know she's totally against it.
No, I am, because this is becoming a tax-free property.
I don't understand that, because I pay taxes.
I'm sure you do, and I should say tax-free. I will correct myself on that. You will pay taxes on any extra features, like if you put a shed or a pole barn or a fence. And the shed would have to be over 100 square feet before it's taxed. Anything under that. So the taxes would be they're going to be very low, and actually the amount that might come to the City of Carrabelle for the year might be $60, $50, if that. And we have to provide all of the parcel owners with fire service, police service, administrative service, street lights, streets and road service, repairs to the streets and roads, and the larger taxpayers are covering that. So we have to be, concerned for the future as well, and we're stewards of the tax dollars here.
But if I choose to sell, I have a select few. Someone else can't just come in behind me like I said now. So if I can't sell, then what do? If I do sell, they can't come in like I'm saying.
This room is full of people, and even Mr. Langston, that can't sell right now. We're all like that. We all own property. Most all of them.
Well,
many of us.
Bottom line, we should have been told all this before
That's exactly
when we first bought it. We would never come here. I'd say not seeing that for all of it.
If I had been told this when I bought a house, I wouldn't have bought a house, I would have put a camper on there.
My question is, we've got a 50 by 100 lot. Can't nobody I'm sorry. My name's Laura.
Turn the mic on.
That's not on. Okay, again, my name's Laura Bennett. We have a 50 by 100 lot. And so if we sell it, we cannot sell it to somebody that can build a house, because you can't build a house on it, and there's setbacks even off of the fence line. And so, but I'm not concerned about that, because
Well, it looks just like a battle fight.
But you're limited.
You're limited.
yeah, and so nobody's going to buy it. My main concern is I want to be able to, when we're grandfathered in, is if I want to move a camper in there to an upgrade, to be allowed to be able to do that.
You will be. We're discussing
I think you can
Well,
probably do that, yeah. Yeah, we didn't have it, that's not it.
Okay, because I mean, I know when y'all said you pull out, you put a trailer, and then you can't go back and put a
We
camper,
were
I
talking
understand
about
that.
the long-term rollout.
When we're talking there, we are talking about this is what has been talked about, is the use. So if we keep talking about travel trailers, RVs, that is the use to which the lot's being put. I think what I'm hearing from the board is if that use changes, that there would be problems with your ability to then go back to that use.
If we choose to sell, then it's a whole different ballgame.
The recommendation from P&Z, which again, the commission is the final say, was that you are able to sell, as long as that use stays consistent, someone could buy from you, pull an RV on it, and move on and get on with life. But that may change. That was the recommendation. The commission has final say on that.
I have a hard time agreeing to that, because my lot is set up with an RV, and to me, that's the best choice.
We need to go ahead and move on. Thank you, sir.
Well, that's what we sent it to planning and zoning for twice, was to get their recommendation.
They're not
I
the
mean,
legal.
I know they're not. That's why I wouldn't have sent it to them to start with. I'm not the one that even wanted to see it start.
You were missing an action when we voted to send it to the PNC, unfortunately.
No, I was here because I showed
Well,
up at the planning and
let's
zoning meeting
get
and made
back to solving the
headlines
problem.
because I left.
Have you got, like I said?
I have direction.
Okay.
I mean, the people bought the
Okay.
land. We
Let's,
sold the,
just a minute. I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
let him review it and see if he needs anything else.
What I'll do is I'm gonna take these suggestions that I'm looking at everyone here, and I think generally on the same page, and I'm gonna rework this and bring it back to you for the next meeting. You all can
Okay.
make a final decision, whatever decision you make at that time.
Okay, would you tell us what that is?
Yes, what that is that we'd have insert in here a cutoff date of January 1, 2015, that I will put some provision in that will make sure that we've got proper water and sewer connections, either an inspection procedure or simply state that they must have that, and then we'll inspect it as part of our normal process. Simplify the language a bit. Abandonment of use. Come up with some, I'll draft some mechanism that that will provide for if the travel trailer, call it use, is abandoned for some period of time, that it cannot then, it cannot be used that way moving forward. It'll be triggered to abandonment of use, that the cutoff on the lot, that it then has to come into compliance with it loses exemption. It'll lose its exemption after the use is abandoned for a certain period. And then I'll certainly take input on
One per lot. Yes,
one per lot. Got it. And that's it, unless we want a more thorough definition of premises than the one in there under number 5. Yes.
Can I say one more thing, and I'll leave you alone?
All right.
You don't care.
I'm going.
Do we want to bring this back as a reading after these changes are made?
No.
Or just bring it back as a draft again?
I'll bring it back as a draft again.
All right. I think one thing that is concern of these people, and I know the lady saying there about not being able to transfer the property. Can you sell your property? Can you sell your property like you want to?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I can't.
But why can't you sell it? Is there restrictions on it that you can't sell it?
Yes, restrictions on it, yes.
On every property you own?
Every property is zoned, yes, every property is zoned.
Okay, but you can sell it to somebody else without restrictions, other than the restrictions that they are there. See, we bought our property with the restrictions that we were told. Now, you're wanting to tell us we can't sell it like we want to. That ain't gonna work. So it needs to be considered. Don't nobody in here want a lawsuit. Nobody. But just like I said, you're not gonna push us off, and you're not gonna tell me what I can do with my property. Unless we can tell you what you can do with yours. And I directed it at her because she's the one that's so strongly about that, you know.
You love it.
What she said? Yeah, you like that.
All right. I got the marching orders.
Got your marching
I got it.
Okay, so March then. Do we need a motion on your marching orders? Oh, Mr. Skip Frank as well.
Skip.
My name is Skip Frank. I have a taxpayer request. We've been beating this dog for over 6 months now. Now, Dan, I see you've got a list of recommendations, you know, blah, blah, blah. Can that be brought to the board as a first reading next month?
We just talked about that. It could, but without seeing it first, and that's at the will of the commission. They can say, Dan, write it up and bring it to us. The reason I would say I prefer probably not is because this is a hot issue. I think there will be more changes even after I bring it back to them, just based on the
Also,
history.
I have to pay for advertising if it comes from first reading. That's the reason I didn't advertise it this time.
We know there's such a thing as special meetings, you know, called, you know, in between times to be able, it can be done. You know, this is just dragging on forever. And I'm just going to request that if it takes a motion or whatever it takes, is move this thing, you know, on, and for everybody's benefit, you know, get it over with. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Is that, are you covered?
I'm covered.
Do we need a motion for him to?
No need for a motion.
No, I don't think so. We just give the direction to do it. He's our attorney.
So we go on to the next.
Okay. We'll move on to the next item. Discuss and possible action regarding donation to the Seawater Youth Fishing Tournament.
We always give them $500 a year.
I make a motion to give them $500.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action regarding the possible of drafting a burn ordinance requested by Jill Reese.
I'm Jill Reese, and this is my husband, John. We own of the property at 206 Pickett's Landing, Court number E2 in the city limits of Carrabelle. We've owned the property since September of 2012 and moved up here permanently full-time as of March 2014. It's come to my attention, and I really hadn't brought this up at all until the 12th Street Pier's been put in, and now there's talk of a sidewalk and which the city is spending a goodly amount of money on, and also the boardwalk down 12th Street over the drainage ditch or whatever it is. There's a lot of burning that is going on just adjacent to that. I'm not talking about a campfire. It's zoned commercial. I don't know what kind of commercial. I know you have commercial light industrial, commercial heavy industrial, commercial retail, et cetera, et cetera. I just know it is zoned commercial. But there's been a lot of burning going on there, and it has been going on for several years. And this started sometime after we bought our property. Since it is zone commercial, there are things being burned there that are not, it's not just wood. We've seen plastic. I have pictures of a burn that was done yesterday. There's some plastic plant pots there. There's something that looks like a large styrofoam container of some sort. I also am aware that other burning goes on within the city limits of things that are toxic. We've also noticed sometimes that there is burning that goes on at night after dark, and it's unattended burning. I'm not trying to change things whereas nobody's going to be allowed to burn anything in Carrabelle. I'm just more concerned about safety. The burning that has been going on is not in a burn pit. It's just on the land. I learned many, many years ago when I was in Girl Scouts, you always ring something you burn with rocks this isn't, or you put it in a pit, and this isn't. And as I said, there's other things going on in there besides just wood. This affects anybody who wants to go over onto the fishing pier, because the smoke blows over there. Once the sidewalk goes in, sometimes, it depends on which way the wind is blowing. Sometimes the smoke is going the other way. So, you know, it's like you put in all this money into making this gorgeous fishing pier, it was in the paper and it's really nice, and you're putting a lot of money into the sidewalk and the bridge, but how can it be used if there's going to be smoke hovering over it? Now, to be fair, this is not every day, but it happens often enough where it has affected us. It's affected our health. When we moved up here, I had been up here several times before, there was burning. I ended up with a very rare kind of pneumonia that was caused by air particulates in the air. I've never had any kind of pneumonia before. My husband, 63 years old, had never had bronchitis and ended up with a severe case of bronchitis this winter. We have a grandson who is 11 years old and is facing his 3rd open heart surgery already. How can we bring him up to enjoy our home and knowing that sometimes this burning is going on? I have actually sat in my living room with the doors closed, and the doors are Anderson, very heavy duty, hurricane rated, double pane doors, where I've been looking around wondering what is burning in my house, because it smells even in the house.
All right.
Okay. There's also incidences where I've heard of people burning tires in town, which is extremely toxic.
Well, let's get to the issue of where you're talking about one particular spot.
Okay.
We know about all the other stuff.
Okay.
I mean, we might not do anything, but we know about it.
Okay.
So, what you're saying is, down there where you live, they're burning. When I asked about the question, when you brought it up, about whether we needed an ordinance or not, it may be one of just enforcement more so than a new ordinance.
Well, there's no ordinance in the City of Carrabelle against any kind of burning.
But you're allowed to burn your I think it is covered in some of the stuff, in land use, you know, with leaves and limbs and yard debris and stuff like that.
That's no problem.
This is not the situation you're talking about.
Correct.
This is industrial or whatever burning.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and that may be illegal the way it's set up. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask the attorney again.
Okay.
Ms. Brenda has something on it.
Well, I called our fire chief, and he says that their Florida statute, and I was going to, if this proceeds on, I'll ask the attorney to certainly research it, but there is a statute, and throughout the state of Florida, you're allowed to have what is termed as a warming fire, but that's the same thing as a residential style campfire, and most everyone has those in their yards. I mean, I can look out my window and see three at 3 different properties. So we do, and that is allowed by the state, residential style campfires. You know, in time of drought now, there'll be some fire bans. That's issued by the Commissioner of Agriculture. So, you know, I don't know. Is she looking for an ordinance?
Well, actually, it came up at that, if you remember, the CRA meeting, and I insisted it come before the board, and that's not a lawmaking unit, in case we needed an ordinance. I wasn't sure, because a lot of our zoning stuff covers yard fires and all this, and the type of zoning that this business is in, I needed to find that out.
Mr. Whaley does say that leaves and debris, any yard debris, wood, you know, is permissible with that warming fire.
But the only reason she's here is because we insisted, or I did.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That she come and do it. and
Yeah,
at the commission
I
meeting.
did find a copy of the county ordinance, which doesn't prohibit burning except like on the beach or something, but it does have, and I have 3 copies here if y'all want to see it.
No, we don't need to.
You don't need to see it?
Not unless
Okay.
they do. You want to see it? Burn
I
away?
always like to, you might keep paper for it.
Anybody else?
Thank you, sir. Well, you have seen it, but maybe the public hasn't seen it either.
Well,
And so, Miss Olivia also, if you had an extra.
Did you give one to the attorney?
No, I have 3. We had bought our property about 6 months before this other entity opened their doors. And if we had known that he was going to be doing this burning at that time, then I would have addressed it earlier. But as I said, we were there for probably 6 months before it started.
Okay.
Or we wouldn't have even bought there. So.
Okay. I need to find out whether that is covered by our standard regulations, or whether we need to get an ordinance for that particular
Yeah,
thing.
because this just refers to the county's right of way. It's specific to all this stuff, but it doesn't talk about personal property. This is kind of out of a statute.
All right, if the commission wants me to, what I'll do is,
Well, I know that he's always worked in construction, and he's always really burnt his stuff even right down the road from there, not even 100 yards from there.
It's not a question of how long he's been doing it
Yeah,
or that.
I know, but
It's
I
a
was just
question
saying
that-
he's been doing it right there on that block.
It's a question
I
of
mean, it
whether
ain't like
it's
he's
legal.
done it because they
And
moved there.
do we need an ordinance? Is this like a family feud? I hope not.
No.
Can put something, we're certainly not gonna, I would not suggest to ban burning or campfires
No,
or
not-
anything like that.
No,
See,
not at
that's
all.
a way of life here, and we, want to continue with our
We are only
campfires.
concerned about the materials being
Yes.
burned.
And if it's hazardous
We
material.
are not against campfires or
And
whatever.
I was going to say, could it be possible that we could use amnesty days at the landfill? And I understand that they're the county's considering 2 amnesty days a month because they're stopping collection of certain type debris. And so,
Okay, let's give the lawyer an opportunity to look up and see if it's covered under our local zoning stuff. Address the issue of being a business, burning on a constant basis.
all right, what I'll do is I'll come, the next meeting I'll come prepared to give you all a rundown on state law, LDR, our regs and everything else.
Because I'd rather not have an ordinance if I don't need.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about sometimes the burns are unattended.
Well,
You got woods that
Let me ask
separates.
you a question. What
Yes.
do you expect us to do about a burn that's unattended when we know nothing about it? All I'm saying is, you gotta know about something that's going on, if it's unattended or not, or whatever. We don't drive around looking for these problems.
I don't either, but it's right out my back door.
I understand. Then you maybe need to pick up the phone and make a request.
We have done that.
Okay.
My husband has gone over there in person several times.
Okay. Thank you.
He wants to speak. Mr.
Sean?
Can I get grandfathered in?
with the burning.
Since this was brought to my attention, all that we've been burning is boxes. I'd like to see your pictures, ma'am. From yesterday, I'd like to see, I want to see some styrofoam and flower pots. But anyway, and then I wanna know how you got those pictures.
There's woods between
I know,
right there. I thought you released that one.
But, anyway, since this was brought to my attention a few months ago, we've been burning very little, and what I've been burning, I've been watching the wind, and we hadn't been lighting a fire if it was in any way going over towards Pickett's Landing. And we're not burning anything toxic. I do burn some boxes, and if that's wrong, then we're gonna have issues in other businesses besides mine. But if y'all would just tell me to stop, I'll stop. That's what you want.
I can't. Yeah. I can't, that looks like just a bunch of debris.
But I am trying to comply
I
to
know, I've
respect
talked
these
to you
people's
already.
stuff.
Okay.
So, Mr.
Well, I would think that you would know whether you had styrofoam there, and I think you would know that it would be against the law if it burned anything toxic.
Styrofoam's not burning. It's sitting in the back.
Mr. Hartman, then would you pay attention to cardboard material when you do the
And like
research?
cash register receipts and stuff like that. I mean, I don't have a shredder.
Paper and cardboard.
It's all wood products, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ma'am, I hate to say
That
this,
styrofoam's
but
not burning.
I understand, but this was not yesterday.
Or the day before.
No, it wasn't.
I'm sorry, yes, it was.
No, ma'am. The fire that burned yesterday was right up by the bridge.
Yesterday,
It was.
We don't need to get into it.
Yesterday, 11:58.
I think we're gonna have the attorney.
So anyway, y'all just let me know what you want me to do and I'll be happy.
No, just make sure you don't burn any right now, and make sure you don't burn anything that's toxic.
Right.
And I think the size.
There's not a family feud on my side. My family ain't feud. Thank y'all.
Okay. Okay, more work for you, Dan.
Very good.
Right here. All right. Any more discussion on that? All right. Okay. Approval of the attorney bills.
I make a motion to approve the attorney bill.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carried.
House of Copenhagen.
All right.